Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. This is the Brownsville Public Utilities Board meeting. It is December 8th, 2025, 5 p.m. Location is the BPUB Annex Building. We'll go ahead and get started and call this meeting to order. Do we have quorum?
Yes, we do.
All right, we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll go ahead and have a quick moment of silence, please. We've had a lot of, we had a tragedy, I guess, yesterday. Just keep those people in mind. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to the first item, which is a workshop. Workshop on Resaca Fee and Operations Policy. Mark?
Good evening, Mark Dombrowski. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for BPUB. Also joining us tonight is Mr. Alan Gard and Dodo Garcia from City Management, in case we have any questions about the city's involvement with the drainage utility.
Good.
So,
Welcome.
So to start off with, so this meeting was, workshop was requested by the board back in July 7th, and in August, we worked out an agenda for the workshop, and here you see it. So essentially, we're going to cover what the current fee usage is for, some governance options, including our continued operations, city assumed Resaca operations, and separate districts. And then finally, I was asked to create a BPUB-led strategy for future Resaca operations. Tonight, there is no board action on this. This is only for board discussion.
Yep.
So this is a timeline of Resaca operations, and we've been able to track it back to the late 1990s when the BPUB determined that there was a need to dredge at least some of the Resacas for, that's where we store our raw water. And at that time, they were in contact with the Corps of Engineers, who came out and surveyed both the river as well as parts of town Resaca. And while the Corps itself did not have a dredging program, they had a restoration program, which dredging could be a part of it. That was kind of the nexus between the BPUB's Resaca operations and the restoration efforts. And so there was an act back in 1999 by the House, Transportation Infrastructure Resolution, that began a study by the Corps of Engineers that terminated in 2009. And that was the precursor to the Corps of Engineers CAP program, and I drawn a blank what CAP stands for. I'm sure Renee can tell me here. But that was a initial project that started in 2015 and wrapped up in 2020. That led to the core projects that we're all familiar with the multiple contracts. Started in 2015. Study was complete in 2018, and really got a new start in 2024, and now Project 1 is pending on that, pending the PPA. We also have the Restore Grant, which is funded through the Treasury Department, and that project is under construction and is nearing completion. And then we have the Bureau of Reclamation grant that we received last year, and that is out for final design at this time. So those are the three restoration or grant projects we have underway, as well as our Resaca. You'll see at the top that we started with cemetery, went to zoo, Dean Porta, Rosaka Boulevard, the zoo extension, St. Joe's, Rotary Park, and now our team is over at the reservoir behind us right now. So we've had several meetings on this at the request of the board. So a year ago, November, we were asked to meet with city, and we did that. And we've exchanged a lot of information with the city on what we do, a lot of stuff you're hearing tonight, what they're doing with their drainage utility. There wasn't a lot of crossover at that time. We agreed to continue to work together on this, but nothing definitive came out of that meeting. Then we had the joint meeting with the board and the commission back in December, and we had a discussion on that at that time, and we discussed a lot of these issues. And at that time, there was a general consensus that we weren't going to move forward with changing the Rosaka fee, and that we would look to the city, who's executing its drainage utility fee, and perhaps switch them at that same time. In April, we asked Mike Pettis, our CFO, to bring forward several options of funding different ways of addressing Rosaka operations, and he presided, was at five different options for us with different Rosaka fees depending on what you wanted to complete in those Rosakas. So that was presented, and no action was taken that time either. So that brings us to tonight's meeting. Let's see, so current fee usage. Each of you should have received a map that we developed for tonight's workshop. And that map is from our GIS group, who did an excellent job of pulling together a lot of information. And so this shows you graphically, when we talk about Rosaka responsibilities, what it really means is who has responsibility for putting water in that Rosaka. We have 6 different public agencies that are involved, as well as an HOA that are involved in Rosaka operations. Of the total, BPUB is responsible for about 39.5% of the Rosakas, of the surface area. And you can see where we've outlined where the water comes from, the areas that are under restoration, and how we pipe the water into the various Rosakas. We want to spend a little time on what is it exactly that we do, because I think there's a lot of confusion on what Rosaka maintenance is. So the first thing is, consistent with our mission, we divert and we store raw water from the Rio Grande into Rosaka de la Guerra that is capable of running through our water treatment plant behind us here. We also conduct dredging operations on portions of Rosaka de la Guerra to increase well water storage capacity. We have conducted some dredging operations on Rosaka de la Guerra, Town Rosaka, and Rancho Viejo, and that was really associated with the restoration projects, and that was for purposes of water circulation and control flooding, enhanced water quality, and ecological improvements. It's not for the purpose of raw water storage. We pump water from the Rio Grande into Town Rosaka that flows all the way through to the zoo and to the Dean Porter Park, and that's really for the community benefit there. We purchase raw water from irrigation districts and put in certain Rosakas. We don't have the ability to pump water out of Rosakas, but when a storm's coming, we will stop putting water into the Rosakas. We also have the ability to levelize water within the Rosakas, those are under our control. So we'll work with other agencies when we see a storm coming to help balance that and mitigate flooding. And we also manage those grant opportunities like the Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Reclamation, Restore, and that's been part of our project as well. As I highlighted, we have 3 restoration projects. Restore project, which is underway. We expect that completed in early 26. The Corps of Engineers, contract 1, is pending the finalization of the PPA, and I believe we're waiting on some additional information from the Corps of Engineers, which I believe is due in January or February timeframe. And finally, the Water Smart, which is in final design phase, we expect that to be completed in 2027. And we have the funds to complete all of these projects here, so that's all available for us at this time.
Well, yeah, we have the funds for Project 1.
That's correct, Project 1. Some of the things we don't do is, and we do get calls from this, is things like removing trash and debris from the Rosakas. We get calls from that. We don't have crews or the ability to do that. And you'll see that a lot of that land is, it's really private ownership. It's people's backyards in a lot of cases. We don't cut or remove the vegetation in the Rosakas beyond what's performed as a part of these grant funding restoration projects. So that's largely what they're doing, restoring the banks back to their native vegetation. We don't have the ability to add water to Rosakas except for where we have the piping already in place. And we don't install or maintain drainage infrastructure, but we do have restoration projects where that is a part of the project, and we coordinate with City Public Works on those features that then we turn them over to the city to own and operate as a part of their drainage. And finally, there's, I think most of us have seen these aerators. Most of them aren't working now. My understanding is those were installed by a group of private citizens and given over or turned over to the city, we believe. Most of them have stopped operating since then. We don't install or operate or repair those. The group that does our dredging and weir management is highlighted here in the light blue. So we have 22 authorized positions. About a little over a year ago, we put a hiring freeze on those Rosaka positions. So as they become vacant, we did not replace them. So we have slightly more than one crew at this time. And we're holding those open until we get a direction from the board. The positions that are in white there, the senior management of the group, that is not funded from the Rosaka fee. So those are funded from water operations. The Rosaka fee is solely for the operations are in the highlighted blue part. And some of you are aware that a lot of the equipment we purchased was back in 2012, 2013 when we started our dredging operations. It was very capital intensive, and some of you have seen this where we connect the dredgers out, and they pump the sludge from the Rosakas. It goes through a filtering system, and then it's stored on site there while it dries out, and then we haul off with dump trucks to our city landfill. Very capital intensive, and this equipment operates in a harsh environment. It's located over near the zoo at this point. That equipment is at its end of its life, so we determined that we could not move it, and so it's going to be salvaged, the majority of the equipment, or sold off to a vendor who's going to haul it off on site. The new process we have is much more O&M intensive. It uses these series of pumps from the dredges that pump it into large bags. They're stored on site where the dewatering occurs in those bags. And when the content is dry, you basically break the bag open and you haul the dirt away in dump trucks. So as a result, it's much less capital intensive. And the current site that we have is over here on Reservoir One. We started back a pilot program with these bags in December 24. We found that they were very effective and very cost effective. And so we're expanding those operations. We're going to begin dredging the reservoir back then with this technology. The work plan that you had asked for, so this is, it's also on that timeline earlier where we started out on the cemetery portion of the Rosaka back in 2013. And this gives you an idea of when we did the dredging, whether it was in conjunction with a restoration project, and if there was funding for like a Corps of Engineers or Restore. And right now, we're there at Reservoir Number 1, which is currently underway. After that, we plan on going to the Cromac property, which is Resaca de la Guerra, and then moving on from there. The other projects are really pending if we're going to go forward with the Corps of Engineers, and whether the Corps of Engineers, I believe, uses our dredgers. I think, I'm not sure we're committed to that project yet. We can get with Renee on that. And then the fee itself, you've seen the schedule. So this was updated in July. I didn't update it for a year, but and at the end of July, we had about $8.5 million in fees that we have collected, and that's available. You can see that in 22 is when the Resaca fee started. Prior to that, we were using revenue from water rates for dredging operations or raw water operations. We've spent about $26 million on Resaca operations going back to 2012 to the present. And this is the same information just graphically. You can see up front where we did those large capital purchases of trucks and equipment and the startup materials. And it was pretty stable for quite a number of years. And then in 24, you start to see Restore Act. So the way Restore Act, it was a reimbursement grant money. And initially, I think we were going to get 65%. And what ended up doing, because the funding was available, they gave us a 100% reimbursement. So all those costs were restored, and you can see that money coming back into. So that what contributes to that balance on the Resaca fund. So the Resaca fee itself was established through a cost of service study that was completed back in 2022. It established rates, water rates from 23 through 27. And that created a separate Resaca fee. And so all of those costs associated with dredging were pulled over into that fund. And it included 4 components: capital outlays, Restore Act project, Corps of Engineers, and then, of course, the dredging itself. And this is the actual schedule, so you can show here that this is, since we're collecting the fee and it's a designated fee, this is what we can spend the money on. So we can buy capital equipment, we can spend it on the dredging operations, we can contribute towards those restoration projects. And so that's a limitation on what the fees can be used for. Then within the ordinance itself, it limited it to systems that were used and useful and directly supporting the systems under the board's management and control. So we can't go out and contract with another agency or outside the group and use the funds on those. It has to be under what is considered our control. So that's why the funds have to stay within BPUB, and they have to be used with one of those 4 purposes. That original cost of service study anticipated the Corps of Engineers project. We've had a couple of starts and stops on it. It should have started several years ago. And so we began collecting for those projects as it became due. There was a delay in getting that started. And so as a result, in October of 23, we went to the commission and asked them to hold the Resaca fee at $6.25 per water meter, and the commission did that. And so the fee that was anticipated growing to $12.50 per water meter in 2026 has been held at $6.25, and that's where it is today.
Would that be the highest, or was there more increases
That's as far as the
projected?
cost of service study went. The project themselves, there were, I want to say it was 17 different contracts in the Corps of Engineers that would have gone on for multiple of years. And on top of that, there was a 75-year obligation to maintain, excuse me, the Resacas. So all of that would have been collected through a Resaca fee, but we don't have the cost of service study at that time. And of course, those costs, each year they get, well, every couple of years they get escalated by the Corps of Engineers, so the costs increase in the future, and the fees would have had to increase in order to stay up with those future costs. But we did not estimate what they were after that. We are also asked to provide an update to the various options that our CFO presented you back in April. So we've updated some of it with the updated cost here. Here are the same cost structure, so it's slightly increased from the numbers that you saw back in April. Governance options. So we were asked to look at a couple of different things. One was,
Maybe we can pause really quick
Sure.
here, Mark, and I can say a couple of things
sure,
before we continue forward. So you're right, we did make the recommendation to the commission to hold the Resaca fee at $6.25.
yes,
It sounds like there was more information that collectively we wanted to get, the potential for the real estate portion, or the simple fee, I think it's called, or fee simple, sorry,
right,
right? That there was reluctance or desire not to take that option. And then there was also the potential of reducing the matching component, which
Right.
could affect, how much the Resaca fee in the end would be, period.
Yes.
So
Here was that.
in all of those questions, I think there was a lot of information that we needed. Several board members also knew, including myself, so we were asking all these questions, and really this information is basically, I would call, the organizational knowledge that you and the team had to go find,
Right.
because we didn't have something, let's say, compact, that had all of this information, et cetera. So I think that what we're doing here is just revisiting this topic, based on the meeting we had with the commission in December. And we're really questioning, what is the Resaca money being used for? What's the benefit to the community, so that they understand? I know there's a lot of questions about that, calls that we get, and definitely on social media. And then also just making sure that we're aligned with the city commission, because in the end, for whatever recommendation we make, they're going to make the final decision. We have to take a recommendation to them, if my understanding is correct, for them to make a decision, but ultimately it's going to reside on them. So we want to help them. We're in this together as a partners. We want to make sure that we give them all of the options, because there's also people on the other side, as we heard here the other month, or before, I guess 2 months ago, that there's some people that want the Resacas being maintained, right? Yeah. And there's kind of a disconnect of what we can and can't do, and so on and so forth. But I think it is a sensitive topic for the community. We wanted to make all of these different options available. As I expressed before, I would like us individually maybe to contact our appointer city commissioner, just to make sure that we can help them understand, and also with the staff ourselves to go through this process, right? Ultimately, if there's going to be a desire not to continue, then that'll probably be easier decision, but there's a lot of stuff in between that I think this information will help kind of dissect and help them make a better decision, help us make a better decision collectively. I think the slides that you were about to cover were, maybe this is future looking, right? If is the desire for us to not continue, what other options would exist potentially, right? We also wanted to present them, the city commission, potential options. They can take it or leave it, but there was some homework done there as well. So these next slides are, I would say, kind of like pros and cons in general. They may or may not apply, specifically. I think we tried our best to make it applicable, at least from the PUB side. But essentially, right now, we're just going to be talking about potential things that either PUB, the city, or even a separate entity could do to continue to address the community's desire to maintain the resacas, right? So, was there anything after that? I don't remember. After the proposed
Yeah.
governance?
Well, we were asked to do, continued operations sort of status quo, and that was we have here. If we were to transfer to city operations, and I want to be clear that we did meet with the city is not funded or staffed to do Resaca operations, so
Sure.
there's no desire to do it by the city, but this is more of a theoretical if the city were to do it. We were also asked to look at creating a separate district, and I've got information on that. And then if we're going to move forward with BPUB, sort of a BPUB-led strategy to eliminate the Resaca fee, what would that look like for us? And so that's what I have tonight.
Yeah, so, again, it's a continuation, but it's more like future planning, like you said, theoretical. And then after this, was there another topic? I don't really.
Right, so we have the pros and cons here, which basically just, our operational experience is our biggest pro here. The cons are, mission creep and public perception. We get lots of calls from Resacas we have nothing to do with, asking us to do something about them, and that, we're
Yeah, I
limited.
guess I just saw the agenda here again, sorry.
Yeah.
The last portion is a current recommendation. Again, we're not going to be voting today. We'll be voting in the future, but this recommendation was essentially based on feedback that we gave you. Right? There's a recommendation to the city commission?
No, there's no recommendations in
Oh, okay,
case.
okay.
So, I think you might have an older copy there, maybe.
Maybe. Maybe this is an older copy, but,
So as for the cities, the city is neither equipped, staffed, or funded for Resaca operations, but these are pros and cons on that. This is, I think, is important as we think about Resacas, which is, what is a Resaca and who's responsible? So for much of the Resacas, the actual underlying property is privately held by the landowner. So they really have the obligation, to maintain that property unless there's some sort of assumed contract or easement. The city of Brownsville, they have police power and the power to maintain, flood control and stuff like that. So they're part of the solution as well. BPUB, we have a city charter to, operate the water, wastewater, electric utilities, and so to the extent they cross over, we have a responsibility there. The state of Texas, depending on how the water gets in there, if we pump into water, it's our water and we can use it. If it's water that comes in from rain or stuff, that belongs to the state of Texas. That's a surface water, so we don't have any right to that water. And finally, the federal government, who's responsible for navigable waterways, in which the Resacas are considered, and so they have oversight on that as well. And then some of the alternatives we talked about was these separate types of districts that you could establish. So there's a drainage district that you could establish in the area, which has its own features, and that's probably the lowest barrier option if it's just flood control and basic maintenance. You could create a water control improvement district that gives you a little bit more flexibility on how you operate, gives you the ability to tax there, cuts across political boundaries. And finally, this special law, special authority, which you would actually take and get permission from the state legislature in, much like SRWA is. We have special legislature under Section 59. And so that allows you to really craft whatever kind of project you wanted. So with that, the next thing I was requested was this sort of BPUB-led strategy. What is it we would do for it if we were going to eliminate the Resaca fee? What we focused on is really what is our core mission, which is, control and manage power, water, and electric wastewater systems. We've put together a draft for you to start editing, which is a position statement. So what is it BPUB wants to do in terms of Resacas? And so We draft this, we had a first draft of this for you. It basically states that we're committed to operating our systems efficiently, that we believe the Rosakas are worth restoring, and looking at creating a dedicated entity to maintain that, regardless of the form. It's a separate authority, whether we do it, we create a separate utility, or we join with the county, whatever it is. But some sort of entity that is really focused and funded properly to maintain the Rosakas according to the values that the community has. And so what that would look like is we
Mark,
would, yes.
And that would be not just for the 40% of the Resakas that we currently
It could be.
operate.
Right, so we talked about there's like 6 different entities now in the Brownsville area that have some responsibility towards Rosakas, and they're maintained at different levels. And so if you were to do some sort of like an authority or district, you could include more than just the city of Brownsville, or you could limit it to that. I think that's why when you drive around town, you see some Rosakas are very well maintained. I think there may be HOAs are there, or irrigation district, and some aren't maintained. So the idea is that whatever the community values, you could impose on that entity.
So it could expand, basically.
So if we were to move forward with sort of eliminating the Rosaka fee, what is it we could do? So with the funding, we are going to complete the Restore Act and Water Smart project. So there's going to move forward until completion. We would reserve funding for the Contract 1 project. We have that funding now. We'd set it off to the side, depending when the Corps of Engineers response due in early '26 and what the city wants to do, move forward on, we would have that funding available. We would continue that limited dredging operations for our raw water storage. That would become part of our raw water program. We would continue to pump water into Town Rosaka and the other Rosakas that we buy the irrigation district from to keep water in those. Continue working with other agencies on flood control. And then, of course, we've amassed a lot of data and expertise in these operations that we could work with whatever agency or department that we wanted to create in order to maintain these Rosakas. And so if you saw that slide earlier, we have about $8.5 million in there. Assuming we terminated the Rosaka fee at the end of March of '26, we expect to collect about another $1.6 million, so we'd have about just over $10 million in the Rosaka fee. After paying for the Water Smart grant and reserving that money for Contract 1, we'd have about $7.4 million. We need some additional equipment. As I said, some of our old equipment does need to get replaced, and we need that for continued operations, so that's about $1.7 million. So that leaves us just over $5.7 million in the Rosaka fund. We're spending about $1.4 million in operations. So that tells us we could go about 4 years with the funds that are available at the end of '26. So that gives sort of a window on how long we could fund operations with those funds.
And that burn rate was reduced based on the lowering of the head count and the organization and so on?
Right.
The
So
same burn rate?
right. So sometime in the future, we would do a cost of service study for water utility. We would consider these operations as a part of that, and that would be part of that cost of service study, kind of like we did back in before 2022 when we funded operations from water.
Yeah, because my question is, we were running with more people. If we were fully staffed, it wouldn't be 4 years. It would have been, I don't know, 2 years?
This 1.7, or the 1.36 million, that assumes the one crew. So we have about 15 FTEs here, so
Yeah,
that maintains
I guess my
about that.
point is that that number would have been higher
Yes,
if we would have kept the full
yes, it would've.
team or
Yes.
teams, and the total years would be lower.
That's correct.
Okay?
And so we would run out of money by, sort of mid-2030 on that scenario. So then we were asked to sort of put together a way for you to sort of discuss this. So tonight you heard sort of the status quo is we're doing what we're doing now. or you could recommend to the city to perform ZOC operations. If neither one of those are your desire, then we gave you two options. One would be to follow the BPUD-led strategy. Effective March 1st is what I calculated the numbers on. There's no magic date about March 1st. It's just a date in the future. We also have heard from the city, who is creating a drainage utility, and I'm going to ask the city to come talk about that in a minute, is to time that at the same time so that when they're ready to implement the drainage utility fee, that we cease the Resaka fee. It funds two totally separate operations, but to do that in conjunction with each other. And with either one of those, you could continue to look at and explore this idea of creating a separate district authority to continue to do operational Resaka restoration operations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think to the high level is that there's maybe shifting priorities, right? So obviously the city understands their needs, and it sounds like, you know, there's even though there's a benefit to the Resaka maintaining from the drainage perspective, there may be a bigger need there, right? So that's something that they'll be determining.
Because once we finish the Restore and the BOR grant, that's the end of all of our current restoration projects. And depending on the city's decision with Contract 1, we don't know if that's moving forward. So a lot of the money we're collecting for the Resaka fee, we have to decide what we want to do with that. And that's what the intent of this here.
Okay.
So,
Well,
with that, I do want to,
go ahead.
because it's relevant to one of the options here, which
Sure.
is the city's timeline. So is it Alan or Dodo who's going to come on and talk a little bit about the drainage utility?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board Chair, Board members. I'm Dodo Garcia, Assistant City Manager with the City of Brownsville. As you all have heard, we started already August of 2025, our stormwater utility fee study. We've started with the data collection. As Mark mentioned, the majority of this data collection is heavily focused with our utility districts, including the PIDs that we have in the city, municipal utility districts, our drainage districts, Brownsville PUB. We've met with staff to go over the needs that we have and establish that stormwater need that we have for our entire city of Brownsville. As part of this study, the second step is to do a revenue assessment. The revenue assessment basically will lay out all the different projects or scenarios that we could possibly lay out, develop different plans, and establish a fee that would go along with this. And of course, the most important component of this study is the public outreach. Page down, to scroll down. Yeah. As you can see here in this slide here, it mentions a little bit of what I just mentioned, the data collection, which we're currently under. We have about another month left of data collection, and then about 2 months that I'll go over the schedule after this to show you how or when we expect to have a rate structure or program developed. And then the most important part for us is the public information, the outreach. I just want to state very clearly, we will be reaching out to our community and getting their input to see what it is that they would like to see in our city based on the needs that we have and we outline for them. There will be several public workshops, one in each district, then 2 at large for the whole city, so that we can give our citizens the opportunity to let us know what they feel is important to them and to our community. As far as the schedule is concerned, we are shooting to line up and wrap up this project with our next fiscal year budget. So as you can see in the schedule here, we're looking to wrap up most of our public outreach by May, June, and presentations to the City Commission in June and July, so that we give them ample time to make a decision whether they choose to move forward in implementing a stormwater utility fee that takes into consideration a lot of what Mark mentioned. If you all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I don't want to be repetitive since Mark mentioned the majority of what we were going to be talking about today. I will let Alan talk to you a little bit more about the fee structure, though.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mark, for your very thorough presentation. It was a good introduction to this. So the drainage utility is actually structured under a local government code. They're very specific in how you have to evaluate it and create it and establish it. It directly supports the cost of maintaining the stormwater system. And part of our study is looking at which resakas are part of that stormwater system, so how they would work, what would be a city responsibility versus what is really part of your water system, and we want to make sure we clearly identify those. And then the fee can only be used for drainage-related costs. We know there was a drainage study done for Cameron County. We have, I think, one of the #1 drainage projects in all of Texas. The Four Corners is basically a $98 million project. So there is a drainage need there, and it's been studied, and we're aware of it. I think, as Doro pointed out, the public engagement part of that process is going to be very important. I don't want to, presume anything for the commission. They may decide we're going to deal with it with certificates of obligation, or we're going to have a bond election, or they may be deciding to do different ways of dealing with it other than a drainage utility fee. But we are studying it to make sure they have that option, that we know all the costs. Right now, any drainage operations we have are being covered by general fund. And so there's that limitation that the legislation keeps putting restrictions on our general fund. So we're constantly trying to look at innovative ways and new fees in order to provide the levels of service that we have, maybe free up that general fund money to cover more public safety or libraries or whatever parks, whatever priorities the commission has. So this is sort of interrelated. I do want to be clear, we don't necessarily want to tie this to any recommendations you have. If you want to recommend to the commission that they should look at the Resaka fee, that is definitely, if you feel that's your responsibility, you should do that. We're not tying that to, but we did want to give you these timelines so you understood what we were looking at. From my CFO brain, it would be very helpful for us if one ended and another one started from a customer perspective. But they are not tied together. They are different services, and I wanted you to know the city understands that, and we don't want to tie your hands in that in any way. So our cost of service study has these considerations, and again, a lot of these are set by state law or federal law. We have to look at compliance issues, what maintenance types of expenses are eligible under a drainage utility, and then of course the big ticket item, the capital improvements. We have a number of areas. We know when there's heavy rain, we know there's flooding issues. And we know that the public engagement, people are going to be, another fee, and nobody thinks about it until it rains. And then it rains, they're like, why didn't they fix that? So we want to make sure we look at all these things. We have a lot of community engagement in each district with our at-large commissioners, with the mayor, to make sure we're communicating all of this and educating the community about it, and then asking them, do you want to pay for this, and how do you pay for it? And so that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, both of you, for coming and presenting that. We really appreciate it. From our side, I mean, we, as I said earlier, we want to partner with you guys in providing the commission, the options. Even though they are two separate things, we're essentially trying to do the same, just following up on previous conversations, meetings that we've had, and making sure that the community understands. So we're kind of getting a head start of that, and that we give them enough time really to ask questions and get informed on all the details from, at least from our side, from the Resaka fee, and obviously you're going to go through the same with all of the different projects that you guys do. You guys do a great job on that. If needed, let us know if you need support during your outreach. If you think it's although separate but relevant enough, I'm sure that we can make a case to support that. That's all I have. I don't know if anybody.
I have one more note.
Yep, go ahead.
We have been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers to ask them about the fee simple question and the percentage of match. They replied back today, we are looking into that.
Okay.
So I just want to let you know,
Yeah.
that's the latest update. We just literally got an email back today.
So if the answers to that were to be favorable, what do you think would be the city commission's decision on starting?
I'm not
project
going to
one?
speak for our commission. That is definitely a conversation I know they want to have. As here and as within the community, there is varied opinions. And so I think that would be a very robust conversation and definitely a policy decision that would be left to the commission level.
And would it be possible to have that in an agenda item for them to discuss? I think being able to decide now whether, like what kind of responses from the Corps of Engineers would trigger which actions, like that's something that could be decided now, and it could affect the decisions that we're trying to make here.
I will talk with the mayor and commissions and see if they would like to have that as an agenda item in the near future.
That would be very much appreciated, and thank you for coming over and giving us this information. I have some questions about the map that we're provided, and I was, maybe Mark and whoever could answer. Thank you.
Yes.
So I would like to understand for the resacas, that 40%, right, that is now under the responsibility of BPUB, the why, and like, for example, like boundaries, right? Like how are those boundaries determined, right? What's the rationale for these are the ones that we're taking care of versus, why not, a longer stretch or, just
Okay.
anything like
I
that.
might have to call a friend. Got more history than I do.
Hi, good evening. Rene Mariscal, Division Manager for Water, Wastewater Engineering and Planning. So to answer specifically your question as to why specific boundaries, really what I can provide is that the infrastructure that we have is essentially what is somewhat setting where we can feed water. From who selected the boundaries and so forth before my time.
So is there a taxing agency that could take care of those resacas?
Yeah, that I don't know that answer.
I mean, I think that was part of the presentation, right? We could set something up. Doesn't exist
Well, I mean,
now.
there's existing taxing agencies, so I'm wondering if any of these right now fall under, I don't know, CCD,
Yeah,
but
Cameron
CCDD
County?
number 1, CCDD number 2, whatever. Do they,
I don't have that answer.
so it might be that we are providing, like we're charging a resaca fee to cover maintenance of a resaca that is already being taxed?
We can verify that information, but to my knowledge, any of the here's is not anything that we're providing or a taxing entity. But what we could do is get back to you at a later meeting to see what are the boundaries of the resaca program for the county. And maybe they can come in, we can include it in the presentation to make a presentation to this board. Because the Cameron County does have a resaca program. I've seen maps of their program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, again, there was no action on this. It was just a workshop. Thank you, everybody, for all the work to get us information here in front of us and the ability to review it as a board. So we'll continue down the line. I think next. And apologies, I'm a little under the weather, but working through it. Next is public comments. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay. And section F, consent agendas. We have, I believe, 15 consent agendas. Most of these have already been reviewed by, most, if not all, have been reviewed by their respective committee meetings that happen throughout the month and are also public facing. If there are no questions or none actions that want to be pulled,
I would like to pull item number 6, please.
okay?
Thank
We'll go ahead and pull item number 6. Do I have any motion on the remainder of the consent items?
Do a motion?
Okay, we got a motion from Mr. Sarkis,
I'll
And-
second that.
second, Joseph. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes, with the exception of item 6. So we'll continue to section G, items for individual consideration. Number 1, General Manager's Report.
Good afternoon, board members. On your updated calendar, there should be on your desk some meeting dates that were updated. On January 12th is the next SRWA board meeting that was changed. And also, we also added a Facilities and Program Committee meeting on January 21st. If you have any questions on the calendar, I'll be happy to note it on there. It's also noted on your screens ahead of you. Just to keep in mind, we do have some holidays coming within the next 3 months, December 25 and 26. Our offices will be closed, as well as January 1st and 2nd, January 19th, and February 16th. And in that, we also have additional activities for your consideration and meetings, and I know we're working on travel for board members for the ABPA Legislative Rally. We also have an NATF peer review. That's not probably something you guys are familiar with. That's North American Transmission Forum. And if you all are interested to meeting some of the other neighboring utilities that are going to come and visit our utility, let us know, and we can make arrangements to give a welcome speech as well for that if you like. So with that in mind, I'm going to move on to the next item on the industry and Brownsville updates, which include the various things. The most important thing that I provided in your here, though it means a lot on the water side of the building, is Proposition 4 and the timeline. There's an article there, and that's important. Why? Because we received a lot of water funding this legislature, and it also provides the future water funding for the state of Texas and the various different things. We can come back and give a later presentation in more details if you so desire. But I also wanted to talk about it a little bit, just at a high level. One of the committees did talk about all of the regulatory activities, electric, water, environmental, and things that affect our utilities. I'm not going to go through the presentation. They presented over an hour presentation, but it is included in your board packet. Close attention, just to give you on page 10, you have the key electric bills that were passed. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they are part of the interconnection services and things leading with large loads and how they connect into our system. We have a very important key legislation that we're monitoring as well. It creates a Texas Grid Security Commission, so that's very important to the state of Texas security. And it also has other things that are establishing a Texas Advanced Nuclear Energy Office, and that's something new. With that, if you all have been working with us on our integrated resource plan, and potentially maybe there's SMRs that we might be able to be looking into. All of these things that are passed throughout, and they continue through the next subsequent pages on 10, 11, and 12, and many different codifications, are things that we're going to be working and to see how they're going to be implemented into our utility. And with that, our 2 lobbyists that we have that are located in Austin, they help us and they attend meetings on our behalf. We send them to various different offices and they help us assist throughout that. Even though it's a down year, that meaning that they're not going to meet this upcoming year, there's a lot of work and pre-work that we do on the implementation phase on that. Starting on page 14 and 15, you have a lot of key water and wastewater environmental bills that were passed. One of them in particular is the one that I mentioned is under Senate Bill 7. That was the creation of the Texas Water Fund, subject to approval of the voters, which happened in November that I provided the article owner on there. We were the recipients of some of the funding that is coming on Banco Morales and the indirect portable reuse that you'll be able to see additional. All of those are helping keep rates low and not for us not including it into our base rates in there. And that's something that we're helping the citizens of Brownsville to ensure that we're providing low water rates. You've seen a lot of announcements throughout the valley on some of the various different things that are going on, various different projects. As we do cost of service studies, we try and identify and integrate whatever we can from those additional grant fundings that are there. In addition to that, if you just keep on going, all the upcoming issues are on page 18. And I'm not going to go through all the various different things, but it comes to the various different ERCOT reliability assessments and potential market design changes. That's something that our Director of Power Supply and Mark, our Chief Operating Officer, are looking very closely and how that impact us, because all of the changes that are happening in the electric industry eventually trickles down. We ensure that we're trying to ensure that we have those costs. We also have, in addition to that, and if you look on there, a little bit of a summary is the next steps. The lobbyists will continue to attend and monitor interim legislative hearings and agency meetings. They're going to continue to participate at Texas Public Power Association and support their efforts and promote public power. They're very active in the regulatory arena, and they also attend the American Public Power Association legislative rally and support of the various different bills that on the federal level that we're working through. I've drafted a couple of letters in support of low-income funding to help and assist our customers, and so that has been sent, to the various different legislators and congressmen at this time. Our lobbyists, state lobbyists, are still continuing with efforts on the regulatory agencies and stakeholder decisions. What does that mean? They meet with the various environmental agencies, the Water Development Board, and all of the other entities that we work with, like the Public Utility Commissions of Texas as well. And they're going to continue working as managers PUB issues arise and working to finalize the legislative plan for the upcoming 89th legislative session. With that, we'll probably have another Regulatory and Policy Committee meeting to understand if you all want to make a change. And you just heard a very active presentation. If we want to choose to work and create another entity on Resaca, this is the time that we would talk about and including that potential legislature in writing and drafting and see who would be championing those edits to the actual to the state law. So I've said quite a bit on the calendar, the industry, and the regulatory update, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to defer to the legislative team, bring them back, or we might be able to answer them at this time.
No, I don't have any questions. I was present at the committee meeting where they gave some of the details, and they were pretty excited about the amount of funding, specifically around the water. So I think that is, according to them, one of the biggest wins in a long time. So I hope that we can take advantage of that. Obviously, water is critical for us in this region, and we're in a very good position, but we need to keep marching forward and making sure we address any new issues. But yeah, I don't have any questions or comments. Go ahead.
I just have one comment about the annual holiday dinner. I just want to thank everybody who helped organize it, and thank you for inviting us, and it was lovely. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it. Yeah, I was a little under the weather, so I couldn't make it, but I heard Martin was there to the end, and Joseph as well, dancing.
I enjoyed it, and my daughter loved it. Thank you all very much.
Yes. With that in mind, we will have some announcements in January, some that we did at the dinner, and so we'll have a presentation and video at that time. I believe that's when we will be providing that information.
That's right. And congratulations to the Employee of the Year. Are they here? No?
She stepped out. Okay. Okay.
Okay, if no more questions, we'll move on to G2. Basically, the action we pulled was item number 6. I'll go ahead and read that. It's consideration and possible action to approve the analytical lab design phase remodel. I don't know if somebody can provide some background information there.
Our facilities manager here, and he'll introduce himself. If you all haven't met him, he started with us a few years ago. You can just give a little bit of background, because I think this, they presented before the previous committee, but not before the full board.
Correct. How are you doing? I'm Travis Menchaga, Facility Manager for BPUB. And let me just get to this presentation here. Before I start, did you have any questions or concerns?
I mean, my question comes down to one thing. How did we choose Half and Associates?
How do we choose Huffman Associates? They were on the rotation list for engineers.
That's what I assumed. Why didn't we put it in the agenda? That's the kind of thing we need to document for our ratepayers so they know
Okay.
how we make our choices. That was really my only question.
Okay.
I think everything else makes sense. I've been following the need for this. I just wanted it said out loud, and hopefully we can modify this. Oh, and Judy's back. Congratulations, Judy. But I just want us to be very clear about how we choose our vendors.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was at, they're on a rotation lift, but they also have MEP capabilities, so that was made the
Oh, they're
choice.
highly capable,
Yes.
yeah. Just wanted to make sure it was said out loud.
Okay, all right.
All right, well, just hold on a second, just in case. Do I have a motion?
Oh, I'll move to approve.
Okay, anyone wants to second that?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to G3, staff reports and presentations to the board. Presentation and discussion of BPUB's financial performance report, period ending October 31st. Mike Perez.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Mike Perez, Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be presenting the financial performance report as of October 31st, 2025. Here we've got the executive summary that focuses on 7 categories. Each category has its own gauge meter, red representing poor, yellow average, and green good. Starting out with the flow of funds, BPUB did generate $4,035,934 to replenish the improvement fund with a debt service coverage of 3.75 times, well above the 1.25 times requirement. The fuel purchase and energy charge has generated an over-recovery of $23.1 million as of October 31st. This will be used to offset future market uncertainty. The rate for October was set at 4.065 cents per 1,000 kWh. The COB cash transfer is higher by about $100,000 over budget, and that was really due to a lower FPEC rate as compared to the previous same month last year. The personal and non-personal expenses did come in lower than budgeted by about $3.71 million, and it was due primarily to some vacancies and some timing issues. BPUB's average bill is lower than the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kW residential user. For the month of October, that average bill was at $101.72. The CIP year-to-date actuals and committed total $1.7 million and $37.4 million respectively, which represented about 43% of the fiscal year 26 approved plan. And all key financial metrics are currently in compliance. Here we've got a condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, and this is prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We do compare current year activity as compared to prior year same month. I will be focusing just on the fiscal year 26 column. Starting off with operating revenues, $20,621,000. We back out operating expenses of $14,535,000 and end up with operating income of $6,085,000. We then back out the non-operating expenses totaling $2,039,000, and we arrive at income before capital contributions of $4,045,000. We add in capital contributions of $492,000 and end up with an increase in net position for the month of October of $4,538,000. We add this to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, and we end up with a net position at the end of October of $514,499,000. Here we've got a condensed summary of revenues and expenses. This is based on the flow of funds in accordance with the bond ordinance. We do compare year-to-date actuals to the year-to-date budget, will be focusing on that middle column for the October 25 to date numbers. So we got operating revenues of $19,727,000. We add in other revenues of $2,282,000 and arrive at gross revenues of $22,009,000. We then back out the fuel and the South Los Regional Water Authority contributions of $7,372,000, and we arrive at adjusted gross revenues of $14,637,000. This is the basis for the City of Brownsville's 10% transfer calculation, so they are entitled to $1,463,000. So we then back out other requirements for the O&M, non-operating expenses and debt service of $8,012,000, and end up with the balance available after requirements of $6,625,000. We now back out the total cash utility benefit to the City of Brownsville of $1,463,000, and end up with the balance available for transfers out or BPB uses of $5,161,000. That out of the $1,125,000 was used to fund our CIP transfers and the operating reserves, the reserve requirements, and it left the balance of $4,035,000 to replenish the improvement fund. And here again, the debt service coverage ratio for the month of October was at 3.75 times. So this concludes the financial presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions at this point.
Just a random question, for the city cash transfer, do we just cut a big check at the end of the month, or is it?
No, we do it on a quarterly basis. So it's done on the 10th of the month following the quarter, the end of the quarter.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, we have 3B, drought update.
Good evening again. Rene Mariscal, Division Manager, Water Resources Manager. Really quick, I'll be providing the update on behalf of Mr. Jaime Flores, who's unable to make it. So before you should have some updated slides. As of November 29th, the last publishing, the U.S. combined ownership, Amistad and Falcons at 26.3. That is up from 20.06 last year this time, just to give you an indication how we've increased since last year. You'll note that for the months of November, it was fairly steady at 26, so we still remain in stage 2, slightly above the 25%. November 8th, 26.4, 15th, 26.2, and November 22nd, 26.0. The National Weather Service outlook for the next 3 months is warmer than normal. Outlook is anticipated through the remainder of autumn and early winter. A drier than normal pattern is expected for the next 3 months, and expect cool fronts and dry air intrusions to become more pronounced as we move through February. Falcon International Reservoir remains at historic lows, so that hasn't changed, and confidence remains near certain that the total reservoir storage is going to remain at record lows through February. So that's all I have. We continue at stage 2. Before you have some additional information regarding the stage 2 restrictions and information on our public outreach. Any questions?
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item G4, consideration and possible action to adopt the Brownsville PUB 26 to 2030 strategic business plan, including the proposed vision, mission, and strategic focus areas, challenges, statement of direction, and Tier 1 metrics.
So hi, good afternoon, chairs, members of the board. My name is Luis Jimenez. I'm the project lead for the strategic business plan. So today's an exciting milestone. We're closing in on finalizing the strategic business plan, bringing months of stakeholder engagement, analysis, and alignment to create a clear, actionable map. This map delivers clarity of vision, operational excellence, and measurable results for our customers and community. So you should have all received a final draft of the plan ahead of this meeting. So in today's sessions, we'll be providing a focus update on the work completed since the last meeting on October 15th, and we're recommending a motion to formally approve and adopt the plan. So to bring the latest development to life, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Madden, who will be presenting what happened since our last update. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's great to see you guys again. Again, I'm Frank Nelms. I'm a director with Scott Madden. So the last time we updated you guys was around, believe your October meeting on October the 15th. You all did receive the packet ahead of this meeting, which was the draft plan report itself, as well as some other materials that we'll cover today. But for this meeting, we just want to provide an update on strategic plan development, so activities since the last meeting. And this was outlined in your packet, we've taken a snapshot of strategic focus areas, strategic challenges, statements of strategic direction, and then added one of the strategic initiatives, so you kind of get a sense of how everything flows through the framework that we all discussed at the offsite. We'll spend a little time discussing the Tier 1 board level KPIs, where we've established a baseline and then targets for each. And then spend a little time at the end talking about the strategic plan website, which is currently under development and should be ready to go live here in the next week or two. And then obviously the plan here is to have board adoption of the plan. So in terms of a timeline, you can see where we are, the red bar out on the end. Over the last 5 to 6-ish months, we've tackled a lot of work. We're now to the point where we've got the draft and we can start the process of socializing the plan organizationally and to the public. So activities since the last time we spoke with you, I mentioned the Tier 1 board level KPIs that we've developed. They're aligned to desired outcomes. I'll spend a little more time talking about those in a moment, but there were 4 primary desired outcomes as it relates to the plan. We've identified those metrics, and we worked with subject matter expertise within each of the strategic focus area groups to make, we want impactful targets that are achievable, but we also don't want them to be something that's, super easy to accomplish. The one thing about the targets for the metrics, they're intended to be looked at and revised as you work through the 5-year plan. So if you get to the point where you're going to achieve a target, it's okay to set a new one. Or if, as information comes in, you realize that may have been too big of a leap, they're intended to be reevaluated as you go. For the plan itself, we drafted the strategic initiatives to address each strategic focus area. Each one has detailed descriptions, milestones, timelines, resource needs, target values, dependencies, and risks and mitigations. We iterated on these with the executive team lead and the director leads for each of the initiatives. And then we developed the implementation timeline. So there is a Gantt chart version of the initiatives that the directors and the executive leads have, so they can see how the work is stacked up and the resources can be assigned appropriately. And then we drafted the strategic report plan. And then finally, I mentioned the website. So design of the website is complete. Web development is currently underway and nearing completion. We developed video scripts and have been shooting videos with the executive team to embed those videos into the website with messages so the public can hear from our leadership. And then right now we're working on testing that website functionality, its links, and then we'll set up a connection point. It'll link straight off the BPUB website. Any questions on that? So I mentioned before, you're familiar with this. This is the strategic focus area definition, strategic challenge, the statement of strategic direction, and then what you see here is the initiatives, and you saw this in the plan, the initiatives that are tied to each statement of strategic direction. Looking at what's highlighted in red here, Initiative 25, establishing BPUB as an ERCOT certified level 1 QSC, being one of the initiatives. These are the initiative templates that I mentioned. So each one of these has been developed. Each initiative has one of these. And these were worked on with the executive lead as well as the director lead. And this is what will help track, sort of establish the foundation to develop the detailed work for execution of these initiatives. Any questions about these? So I mentioned before, desired outcomes. So the board level KPIs are aligned to each of 4 desired outcomes. The first being maintain rates that are fair, transparent, financially sustainable for all customer classes. We feel these are the appropriate ones that will be reported regularly at the board level. They are tied to rate burdens across electric, water, and wastewater. And then we have a new metric that we're looking to track around peak load offset with on-system generation. Any question about these? The second desired outcome, to attract, develop, and retain talent by fostering a motivated, high-performing, and resilient workforce. Obviously, one of the key things for BPUB's success is to attract the best and the brightest, and then once we attract them, keep them here. So we'll be looking at vacancy rates, retention rates, and then average days to fill vacancies. These will be measured on a rolling 12-month average. And then for desired outcome 3, improve customer sentiment by enhancing customer experience and promoting the value of a municipal utility. We have our customer satisfaction score that comes from the every other year customer satisfaction survey, the first one we just completed. And then we also will be tracking and have been and will continue to track after call satisfaction scores. So that'll give kind of an indication in the interim between the larger survey. And then finally, the fourth desired outcome, enhancing resiliency and reliability for electric, water, and wastewater utility services. Obviously, there are a lot of different metrics here, but key ones to focus on around the reliability metrics around KD, SAFE, and MAFE. As we roll out AMI, we'll actually get more visibility into many of these reliability metrics and be able to track them and maintain them or follow them in more real time. So that's why you see a few TBDs here. There's some dependencies that must take place first. Any questions on the metrics?
Yes, so the MAFE, what's the length of time?
It's momentary.
So
So
1
like if
second.
you're in your house and your power flickers and it makes your clock blink, like you have to go reset your microwave, typically what happens at the SAFE level or the KD level, those are system-wide, it has to be off for a period of time. It's basically picking up almost like frequency imbalances.
I love this because in a lot of neighborhoods this happens quite a bit, and it's not something that has been addressed very well in the past. So when for TBD, can you explain more about?
So we don't have a target or baseline set up yet because it's going to come with AMI. So there's got to be some benchmarking that's got to be established in terms of, see where we are once we start receiving, can collect some of that data. We just don't have the
So we might
visibility.
start like in a year?
AMI rollout, I believe, is to be completed.
I believe it's March of '27 date.
Okay.
So that'll give us much more granular information about what's happening at the meter on a home. Right now, you can't measure MAFE very well because it's measured at the transformer.
Can we measure with customer calls?
Well, if the customer does call in, if it's just a flicker, sometimes they don't call. But yes, if I'm assuming for customer service, if you're getting reports of I'm having some sort of issue with my house, that would
A
rise.
MAFE issue.
Yeah, it could be a MAFE issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as it rolls out, same as what we've seen with water and so on, we may be starting to pick up data, even though we don't have full visibility of the system. It would just be interesting for us to get any information here.
Let me add something on the customer flickers. Sometimes there may be flickers inside of a home, and it could be due to an electrical wiring. So picking it up at the meter, then we know what happened at the individual home and not inside of the home. No difference than when sometimes commercial accounts call in and they have a specialized equipment and they have some issues. It's sometimes happening behind the meter, a problem or an issue or an electrical wiring. I just want to be clear that people may experience flickers, but they may not necessarily be on the power side, on our side.
Right, but we're just, it's whole neighborhoods.
Correct, which is why the AMI will let us know based on the meters information.
Okay, any more questions?
Thank you.
Last slide here is around the website. This is just a snapshot, taking a few screen grabs of the website as it's in development. It takes the plan report that you have a copy of and breaks it down into a more interactive, digestible format for folks to interact with that information. That would bring us to the next steps around adoption.
If you can go back to the previous, well, I don't want to get too, go ahead. Let's continue. Well, I guess before you do a motion,
Okay.
we'll go back to the previous slide there on the website. I just saw there the new vision and mission. I know last time there was some folks that wanted to provide some input. I'm not sure if you got that added or if you got any feedback.
We have incorporated any feedback we've received.
No, I requested to give some feedback, so I'm not ready to
You're not
adopt
speaking
this.
into your microphone.
Can we table this item and make a
Um,
decision at the next one?
I guess we could, or we can also consider a motion pending the vision and mission, if those are the specific things.
Yes.
Unless, yeah. I think we would be open to that. Maybe after the meeting, you guys can resolve that, capture any last minute inputs and see how that affects it.
So I went through the document, and I remember us discussing kind of our mix of generation. And I think we settled on, and this is rough memory, 55% renewables, 60% renewables.
You're talking about what's in the IRP or what was in the plan as it was laid out?
And this is where I'm going to be kind of foggy. I thought we put that in the plan. It may have been,
So
may have been
those, that specificity would be in the integrated resource plan at those levels. So a lot of these talk about ensuring a power supply, but it points to the IRP as the plan to follow. So we're
okay,
not
got
doing
it.
strategic
So
plan.
that wouldn't be,
That's correct.
that's why I didn't find it. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy.
I do want to add something else on the website, since you've all paused. We are rolling it out in Spanish as well, but you'll see first the English version, and then you might see the Spanish version on there as well. So just to, so when you do see that, as we are implementing through just bear with us on that.
Sure. Yeah, very relevant to our community, so, and you guys are doing that,
Yes.
okay. Well, once we read the Spanish, we may have some more feedback.
Wait, you guys are doing that, or is
We're-
PUB doing that?
We're doing the web development,
Okay.
and PUB's done the video recordings that'll be embedded within the website.
Okay.
All right, well, I know there's still going to be some, it sounds like there's going to be potentially some feedback on the vision and mission. I would encourage a motion pending that feedback, or contingent on that, if anybody's wanting to do that.
Oh, well, we got to hear the motion, right? Or at least edit his version of it.
Yeah, so staff recommends the board to formally approve and adopt the plan contingent on the mission and vision. I think that's it, right? That's all I have to say.
Okay, and just to clarify, we would just come back to those two items, mission and vision, at the
Correct.
next meeting.
Correct.
That sounds good?
Yeah, they can be presented.
Yeah.
I think all of us had general agreement. I mean, it's pretty lengthy. I'm not sure what the feedback is going to be, so I don't expect any major changes with your input there. But I would say that, yeah, as long as it's presented next meeting, we should be okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. I make the motion.
Okay, any seconds?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, 1 nay, motion passes. Moving on to item G5, consideration and possible action for bid award of the annual supply of electrical and electronic spare parts.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is Diane Solitaire, Purchasing Manager. The PUB Purchasing Department opened bids on September 25th for the annual supply of electrical and electronic spare parts. The invitation to bid was advertised in the Brownsville Herald on September 6th and the 13th, posted on PUB's webpage and emailed to 18 vendors, with 6 vendors responding. For all but 3 lots of commodities bid, the lowest responsible bidders are recommended, totaling $908,509.80. As to the ties resulting for the remaining 3 lots, neither of the finalists qualified for the statutory local preference. Instead, under state law, the casting of lots for a total amount of $37,462.20 is required to break ties for the following. The first commodity number is L0073-00, and the vendors are the Reynolds Company or Dealers Electric.
The Reynolds Company.
The next commodity is L0074-00, the Reynolds Company or Dealers Electric.
Reynolds Company.
The third one is L0074-01, the Reynolds Company or Dealers Electric.
Reynolds Company.
Okay. PUB staff recommends approval of bid award for the annual supply of electrical and electronic spare parts for the following low bidders meeting specifications. Annixter of San Antonio, Texas, in the amount of $16,693.05. Crawford Electric Supply of Brownsville in the amount of $31,882.50. The Reynolds Company of Corpus Christi, Texas, in the amount of $463,605.85. Data Exchange Corporation of Camarillo, California, in the amount of $155,950. Dealers Electric Supply of Harlingen in the amount of $270,378.40, and the casting of lots in the amount of $37,462.20, for a grand total amount of $975,972.
Okay, do you have any questions, comments, or motions?
I'll move to approve.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You'll need to accept the latest privacy.
I have no idea what.
Okay,
All those opposed?
Serious.
Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item G6, presentation, discussion, and possible action on proposed amendment to the BPUB Rules of Governance.
Good evening, Paul Gonzalez, General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer. It's a pleasure to be here. The rules of governance were adopted by this board under the authority that the charter grants for the board to have rules and of procedure to sort of dictate how you're generally going to do things. It has room for exceptions to the rules built in, but it was adopted in 2007 and last amended in 2023. What you have in your packet is sort of a mini history of these rules. We're recommending, staff is recommending 2 types of sort of remedial type of changes. Those are to Rule Roman numeral 4 to the closed meetings and Roman numeral 8 on the general order of business for meetings. And then for your discussion and any action that you may or may not decide, a proposal under Rule 14 standing committees. The Regulatory and Policy Committee has discussed these matters generally and then more specifically in November. and thought it was a good idea to bring it to the full board for discussion. So the first of the two recommended updates has to do with closed meetings, because as drafted, there's a paragraph that says if you take a competitive matter to a closed session, it followed what the law initially said when it was passed. It said you take a vote at the very beginning to say, yeah, I agree this is a competitive matter after all. Well, some years back, over a decade, in fact, it was the law, the Open Meetings Act, was amended to get rid of that vote requirement. So this is a cleanup item for the board. So that's our suggestion, is to delete Part D and renumbering the remaining paragraphs for this one. And at any time, please do let me know if you have questions on a particular item. The next staff recommended update is to Rule 7, the order of business. It revises the order of business to ensure that public comments always are at or precede your action. That's what we actually do in practice, and that's what the law requires, but it just clarifies this. There's also a provision in the red line that's included in your packet that moves the routine no action reporting items towards the beginning of the meeting, which allows more time for members of the public to actually get there, so that they can, that was what was understood early on. That was one of the concerns about changing it in the first place, to give members of the public some time to show up after work and such. So that's the second staff recommended change. It comports with state law and our current practice as to public comments. So for board discussion, let me tee it up just with briefly that to remind everyone that the chair appoints a standing committee members. These are 3-member committees. They're advisory in nature, based on the charters that the board reviews every year. Right there, so they've been advisory in nature for a long time. Last year, a board member proposed that the rule allow appointment of a qualified former board member to a standing committee. And we provided a straw man. So what you see redlined in Rule 14 is a straw man that provides that the appointee must have served at least one term, recently ended, that is within 4 years of appointment, and 2, remains qualified to serve as if they were serving as a board member under the charter. That's the first condition. The appointee must confirm that they have no conflicts of interest, right, before coming in, and signed a non-disclosure agreement for the time that they're receiving information as a committee member. The board confirms the appointee, right? The chairman names, but the board would confirm this type of appointee, and they can only serve a 2-year term, subject to the chair's discretion to remove this person from that committee. So last little thing, this is, again, a straw man. This is something we put based on the input we put together based on the idea and the discussions that we've had to date. As drafted, we also made sure the rule was clear about allowing participation at these committee meetings by video or telephone, right? This is less than a quorum of a meeting, so the Open Meetings Act, strictly speaking, doesn't apply, but this is an official recognition that we can have that flexibility for the committee meetings. There's nothing tied to the specific language. If you would like to change anything or change other provisions of the rule, that's for board discussion. So the summary recommendation is, please, we can go ahead and clean up either today or at the next meeting when you take up something more substantive that you might want to change. We can change as discussed, Rules 4 and 7, on the business the order of business as discussed. And then you would discuss and decide whether or not to do the other changes to allow for former members to be on the standing committees.
Okay.
So I've been wanting to give you grief about your Roman numeral reading this time. You've been going between 8 and 7.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this moment, we could make a motion for approval of the changes that you suggest, and then we can then discuss the standing committee change. Is that right?
Yes, you could do that. And Dr. Holman is quite right that it's Roman numeral 8 is for the board order of business. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah,
7.
and, or we
It's a
can
typo
also,
in the
yeah, we
thing.
can
So,
also have the
as
discussion
discussed.
on the standing committee related one, and then maybe do everything together. So I'm open to whatever. If somebody wants to make a motion,
I'll make the motion for the staff's recommendation first, and then we discuss.
okay. So any seconds?
Can I make a competing motion? Or do I have to wait till this one's voted?
Well, if somebody can second hers, or if not, then you can.
Discussion. Second. You're doing the second?
I'll second that motion. And then we have a discussion.
Yep, we'll open it up to discussion.
I mean, I think we should just approve all 3. I mean, I read through staff's recommendations and I thought that was great, but.
Yeah, I guess it's not really a conflict, so let's just take it to vote for the first section. All those in favor for the staff recommended approval of rules related to closed meeting and rules related to a board rule of business? Say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll have a discussion on the second item there. Any comments, questions? I can
don't
provide
feel-
some. I can provide some thoughts on it. But go ahead.
I mean, I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. But thank you for providing in the packet my comments from before, because it reminded me of my hesitation the last time we discussed it. And my hesitation is that as we sit here together, it is useful that at least 2 of us, sitting in different committees, have looked through a lot of the information that is in consent agenda. For example, they've had discussions, they have provided feedback already, and if there are questions that are brought up, they're able to provide, some of that. You lose that, and that's really my only hesitation.
So I'll say my thoughts. Through the 3.5 years that I've been on this board, I have picked up a lot of knowledge, and I know our previous board members have, and they have, set up certain plans and certain activities. So specifically, I'm thinking about our hedging strategy, and to have those former board members come back and provide some of the expertise that they've gained over their time here, 4 years, 8 years, whatever it may be, I think would be extremely valuable. And this is especially because we're limiting this to just committees, and so this wouldn't apply to SRWA, this wouldn't apply to, any decision-making body. I think having that expertise would be extremely valuable, personally.
Also, I think in the way it's stated, they don't have a voting voice. It's just advisory, right? So even at the standing committee, they wouldn't necessarily be voting.
So,
Or is
the restriction on the nature of the committee is already defined, and renewed each annual charter renewal, and it's advisory only. So whether there's a vote at the committee or not, it might give you a sense, give the board a sense of what the committee thinks on a particular topic or where they're inclined.
Sure.
This particular provision did not speak to at the committee. You know, it's sort of like if you're on the committee, you're on the committee.
Yeah, so I mean, we may vote at the committee, but in reality is
It's
more,
not really a vote,
it's
right?
not really a
It's
vote, it's
non-binding.
just, yeah.
Right.
Could we have 4 people in a committee?
We could.
And that might really,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Kind of dovetailing on what you're saying, but, I mean.
Wait,
board-
talk into the microphone.
Board, any board member can go to any committee. You may not be part of that committee, so you may not be able to vote, but just for informational purposes, I get emails about other committees I don't sit on. It says FYI, you're invited to go. I think I'm on 3 committees, so I don't have the time, to be honest with you. But if there was something that was, you know, very, very important or, you know, that needed input and I wanted to learn about it, it's nice to know that I would be welcome as a non-committee member to attend that meeting and just, you know, I mean, maybe become more informed about the issue. And then with that information, I would go back to the board meeting, and when it would come up for discussion, I may or may not decide, you know, to provide some input. But will that still be the case? Where we-
Sure.
where-
So what happens, and part of the reason why it's vetted at, I think, historically at 3 people, is because you avoid a quorum problem.
quorum, right.
So we would, and that's another reason why all of the videos for the committees are maintained on the website.
Sure. I think
Yes.
before they weren't public meetings necessarily, so now we're just created them, I think. I don't know if it was for the finance committee, but it just kind of started, and then we just said, hey, this makes sense, transparent, and even I can watch it, you know, I can watch the finance committee and understand before I come. But go ahead.
If there were a former member on the committee, you wouldn't have a quorum problem if somebody, if
Exactly.
just one more shows up to be live and watch it live instead of wait for the recording or to watch remotely, as is also an option.
So I think that would be great, actually, if we could, you know, require a quorum of 2 existing board members, and then have, you know, you could have a 4th committee member that is not currently on this board, you know, but has served present for quorum.
Present.
Right.
Well, we can't call quorum because,
Well,
but
committee,
something, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, because I've been in there, it only happened once, right? Everybody left, it was just me.
Let me ask a question, because maybe I didn't read it correctly or don't remember, but, so how many, right now it's 3 people on a committee, right? So if we don't change the number of committee members, can the chair appoint 3 non-board members or former board members to serve on the committee? Is there a requirement of at least 1? Is there a requirement of 2? What's the minimum?
Paragraph A also makes clear it's only 1
Outside.
appointee from
Per-
outside
per committee.
on a committee.
So that
So
would
there are
address
2 board
your issue
members.
Yeah, so it's kind of integrated. There's only 1 permitted per committee.
Per committee.
Well, right, but right now, a committee has only 3 members.
Right.
And I'm saying it should have 3
be the
members
full
who are on this board, plus potentially a 4th one
Yep.
that is not on this board.
Or
Correct.
would the idea of having 3 members, and just, I mean, it's splitting hairs here, but a minimum of 2 board members must be present at the meeting, although that would probably be a bit more dangerous because so many things come up.
Yeah, I
Maybe-
would say
maybe 4 is a better
sometimes, yeah, I mean, again, I was kind of joking, I was here by myself, but sometimes we need to keep moving things, you know, keep moving things, right? So even if it's not 2 present,
So that was, I think, part of the reason why at the very bottom of that amendment, we just made sure that, and it could be clarified to ensure that the 2 board members are participating. One might be remote, one might be present, but they count towards that committee's quorum, right?
Right.
That quorum for that committee.
Okay, does everyone feel comfortable? Is any motions? Any more discussion?
I'll make that
It'll
mo-
be 3 more members and one board.
Potentially one.
Potentially one.
Yeah,
Possibly,
You don't have to.
yeah. It could be 0 and it can be 1.
yeah. If anybody hates having free time, they get.
Yeah, and I think it's very useful. I mentioned it earlier during the Resaca information, is just the institutional knowledge, sometimes gets lost, and it can be very valuable. And even though we document all the meetings and have the video and everything, the reality is that this may be another mechanism for us to have that. I've seen in other boards where they have past chair, they tend to be voting, but it's the same idea, right? They were in the hot seat, now they're in the back. They can provide, some historical references. So, any motions?
I'll make the motion as we described. Maybe you have the wording for it.
Just for clarity, is this the concept of one of the 3 may be from outside, or is it
Additional.
like 3 plus 1, right? So we're talking about a plus 1?
3 plus 1.
Meeting the same conditions that were outlined?
Yes.
Okay,
Kind of a Wrath the Khan situation.
right.
Okay, any seconds?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? Or say nay? I say aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yep. So now I guess we'll, once that formalized, we'll have the option. I'm not aware of any specific plans as of now, but at least we'll have that option. And if anybody has any recommendations, we can start to discuss that.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item, which I'm going to ask for some help here, just to read through this long ones here. So section H, Rose, if you can.
Yes, at this time, the items on the agenda designated for closed meeting will be considered. If there is an approved motion to go into closed meeting, the listeners will be placed on hold until the board returns to open meeting. Item number 1, meeting with board's legal counsel for advice about contemplated and pending court and administrative litigation and on matters in which the duty of the attorney under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct conflicts with Chapter 551, Section 551.071, including but not limited to any item moved to closed session and the following. A, reports of local and special counsel, including regarding potential or pending litigation involving BPUB. B, implementation of MOU with city and related matters. And C, updates on contract negotiations related to large-scale business development. Item number 2, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation of information upon pricing of purchased power, generation, and fuel, and their impact upon the fuel, purchased energy, and marketing charge, Section 551.086 and Section 551.072.
Thank you for that. Do I get a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Time is 6:50.
I actually don't know the Wrath the Khan citation was justified or not, but I'm going to go for it.
Okay. So we are back. The time is 7:41. And we are reconvening into open. Do we need a vote on that? I keep forgetting. No, right?
No.
All right, so item I, consideration and action on closed meeting items. I don't believe we had any action items from the meeting.
Correct.
So we'll continue to item J, consideration and action on future agenda items. I think we did have one on the board
Yes.
reorganization.
Yes,
So
so
we'll
that
go
will,
ahead and put it up for vote in January.
okay.
Yep. Anything else? All righty, well, thank you, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, wait,
Uh,
we can't.
We can't leave yet. Motions to adjourn, please.
First.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.